If you're a contractor who's considering hiring a marketing agency, I want you to watch this video so that you don't get burned, because I've been in the space for the past 7 years. I've seen the trends in terms of what companies do to make their bold claims and guarantees to try and get as many companies to sign on board with them. And there's this big trend that I've seen that's been costing a lot of contractors tons of money and wasted time. But first, I want to just bring up like a hypothetical situation. There's not a worse feeling, I'm sure, where you show up to a person's house and you could tell just from walking out of the car before you even present the estimate that that potential project is just, there's no chance. Like it's not going to be a good fit. And maybe that's because you could tell that the house is like very small or in bad shape. Maybe the homeowner is just not a person you want to deal with. Like they might be super price sensitive. Maybe they have unrealistic expectations. And now you're kind of stuck. Like you have to provide them the estimate to be respectful, but at the same time, you also know like this isn't what you're looking for. And I speak to a lot of people that have either hired a company in the past or they're working with one now, and they're dealing with tons of these situations, right? So one of the most obvious reasons that this happens, especially if you're working with a marketing company, is because most of the time these marketing companies are optimizing for volume. So you may have seen these ads before where they kind of remind me of like the wacky waving inflatable tube man. Some flashy headline like, hey, we guarantee you 60 new qualified appointments in the next 30 days or you don't pay. You know, making these bold guarantees. And these became popular a few years ago. And when they first launched, you know, there's a good chance that maybe you worked with 1, 2, 3 of these companies until you realize that it's just unrealistic. First of all, it's very unlikely that these companies actually live up to what they promise. But even if they do, you have to understand that the only reason that they're booking tons of appointments on your calendar is because half of them are going to be junk. You know, half of these appointments are going to be low quality, handyman projects, you know, people that they didn't carefully vet ahead of time. And that's why they're reaching those numbers. Now, I want to ask you a question. If you had the choice to choose between only going on, let's say, a few walkthroughs every week, but you knew that pretty much all of them were going to be very qualified, versus you could go on dozens of walkthroughs every week, but there's a 50-50 chance whether those people are going to be qualified or not, well, I guarantee you're going to take the former 10 out of 10 times, because your time is valuable. You don't want to be wasting it on just like junk quality leads or small projects. Now the next logical question becomes, okay, this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually combat this? And whether you're working with a marketing agency or you're doing the marketing yourself, is just going to be make sure that you're carefully pre-qualifying the leads. So everyone can say pre-qualification. There's not really a true definition, but I'll give you an example. When we're setting up our campaigns, the way that we like to pre-qualify leads is by first asking for very specific and honest questions. You know, we want to know exactly what their time frame is for their project. We want to know the details of their projects. So having them actually write it out in open-ended format. We don't mind asking a bunch of questions on these forms, unlike most agencies, which will just collect a few things because they're trying to get as many leads through the door as possible. Even things like having the leads pre-submit some of the photos of their house ahead of time so that you can kind of see what you're dealing with. That could be a great pre-qualification. And look, at the end of the day, it's impossible to run any type of advertising without getting some unqualified people through the door, regardless of what strategy you use. I mean, that's just marketing 101. You could still stack the chips in your favor by doing some more of this work up front. Now, I recorded a video that goes into this in more detail about how remodeling contractors and home improvement contractors can get more bang for their buck with their marketing. And I'm gonna link the video up here because it is super valuable. Check it out, you won't wanna miss it.